We are here at the Missouri History Museum. This is the trolley car. The trolley car is the first thing that you see when you come to the museum. But today we're going to go far beyond the trolley cars. Today we are going to look at the aviation history as we see it inside the museum. The museum itself is the Jefferson Memorial, which was built long ago in order to commemorate Thomas Jefferson and to provide a place for a history museum to be built. In front of the museum there is a fountain and of course a huge classical edifice. And inside we find a statue of Thomas Jefferson himself, and we find many historical objects. It's a very exciting place to be, and I hope that you enjoy the trip today. Now we'll go further inside, and we'll see that we find ourselves in a kind of fantasy room that has to do with aircraft. And the first aircraft we see is a hot air balloon. We're now over Washington University, looking down on Brooks Hall and on the Washington University quadrangle. Here you see the castle turrets and the American flag flying. Well, the reason we start with balloons is that early flight was quite risky and difficult. People had to lose their lives many times in order to perfect flight, and hydrogen gas was one of the first ways to fly. Here we see an airplane going around a tall pylon in a kind of daredevil race that was very popular in the 1920s and 30s, but which you don't see much of today. Here's a V8 aircraft engine. It's built like a sewing machine. It must be built to run and run and run and not need to stop in midair. Once we're inside the aircraft room, we see this huge single-engine aircraft, and next to it we see a much more modern attempt at flight, which is a fighter jet, which is extremely acrobatic, has small swept-back wings, and can go hundreds and hundreds of miles per hour. And they're made right here in St. Louis. Here are some of the uniforms of early air flight. They were very sophisticated and created by designers who really wanted to impress people with the fashionable nature of flight. Flight was kind of scary. People didn't want to leave the ground. And so with the emphasis on excellent clothing, high-class tastes, people were eventually convinced that air flight was for them, and it would give them status if they would enter an airplane and be brave enough to leave the ground and fly on wings that they were probably afraid would collapse, killing them. These uniforms were a part of the method that was used to give them confidence. And so here we see some of these uniforms, including one that was for out-of-atmosphere air flight. Flights that went above 30,000 feet. Here we see some of the evolution in jet aircraft, and here we see some advertisements. Heavens are filled with commerce is one of them. And we also see this one, what does aviation offer you? What aviation offers you is a good job, either as a pilot or as a stewardess or as a mechanic. Here we have one of my favorite parts of the exhibit. This is a fighter jet, which is made right here in St. Louis. Now you can see that the crew has painted this in a method that they thought would be entertaining to them. And the crew of these jets do have the right to paint them as they wish. This one is seen crashing through the wall and into the main part of the aircraft room. Very clever. Here we have the Universal Aviation Schools. This one, I believe, is in St. Charles, Missouri. Here we see some of the hangars. And we see that the aircraft are on the tarmac ready for people to fly. And it says here that you can learn to fly for $69 in the brand new Aeronca. Here we see another view of the fighter jet crashing through the wall. It's very, very clever. Behind it you see the icon for TWA. So here you see me standing underneath the aircraft that is in the center of the room. And I'm probably talking about how impressive this aircraft is, and indeed this aircraft is extremely impressive. This is a bi-wing aircraft which is very stable, and which was one of the answers to early flight, especially for private pilots. The double wings give tremendous lift and help the novice to maintain control of his aircraft. Here we are beginning to position ourselves so where we can see the huge engine. As you can see, the front has been contorted in order to cover that engine completely. However, sticking down from the bottom of it is the cooling combs that allow the aircraft to continue to fly without overheating. All aircraft have numbers on the wings by federal law. As we go back to the front of the building, we see the Spirit of St. Louis, which hangs high overhead. It's a very impressive display. And of course there's Thomas Jefferson. And now we're outside again, looking at the trolley and going around the building. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed your trip to the Jefferson Memorial, which is also the Missouri Historical Museum. And I would like to invite you to return either with your class or on your own to see the aircraft exhibit again, and to see all of the other things that are available in that exhibit. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.